Hey guys, I want to quickly address one of the most common arguments that I hear from messianics against why the fulfillment of a type or a symbol in the Old Testament, they say, doesn't mean that the type is gone. It just means that it's fulfilled in the sense that you now know what it's about. Before it was maybe vague and not entirely clear what it was about, and now you know. But that is not what the author of the Epistle to the Hebrews says. So in chapter 10, verse 1, and if you don't believe in the inspiration of the epistles of the Hebrews, this won't help you, but this is for those who do. In chapter 10, verse 1, he says, since the law was but a shadow of the good things to come, instead of the true form of these realities, it can never, by the same sacrifices which are continually offered year after year, make perfect those who draw near. So the point here is simply that he's describing the sacrifices as a shadow, that is a symbol of the reality, which is the sacrifice of Christ. So that's the point that he's making here, and then he goes on to talk about God's sort of ambivalent relationship with sacrifice in the Hebrew Bible. There's a fascinating interplay here between Eudokesas and Thelema, which I would love to go into, but it's more than a 3-minute video. But then he comes around in verse 9 and says, then he added, lo, I have come to do thy will. He abolishes the first in order to establish the second. The first being the old order of the sacrifice of lambs and bulls and goats, and the second being the order of the sacrifice of Christ. So when Christ comes, in order to establish the second, that is the sacrifice of Christ, as he's describing through this whole passage, then the first is abolished. The type is abolished by the coming of the fulfillment. And then verse 10, and by that will we have been sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all. So according to the author of Hebrews, this argument is exactly backwards, that in fact, the fulfillment of the type does mean that it is, you can say abolished. Literally, it means taken up in the New Testament in every instance except one that refers to someone being killed or something being destroyed. So when the fullness comes, then the type or the shadow is taken up. It's removed. It's killed. It's slain, destroyed. That is what the Greek of Hebrews chapter 10 says. So this argument fails on a New Testament basis. That is how the New Testament authors understand. It's not that there's no replacement, but that the final thing takes the place of the original. That the original is merely a symbol. It's merely a shadow, and then the reality comes, and the shadow is replaced.